Welcome to tonight's webinar, Stepping Up to Leadership. Our speaker and facilitator for this evening has been a committed Toastmaster for over 2 decades, joining in 2001 and serving as a club officer for most of that time. He founded the County Communicators Club in 2009 and has taken on many leadership roles, including Area Governor, Division Governor, and District 91 Director. His contributions extend to Toastmasters International, where he served on a board committee and the International Leadership Committee. In recognition of his outstanding impact, he received a presidential citation in 2022, celebrated for his talent in bringing people together during challenging times. Currently, he serves as a District 91 Leadership Committee Chair for 2024 to 25. His motto is changing lives one speech at a time. Please join me in welcoming distinguished Toastmaster Andy Hammond.
Thank you, Debbie. I'm joined by some very experienced panelists today. If I can quickly introduce each one. So Rupa Datta, who is a past district director and District 91 Credentials Chair. Vanessa King, who's also a past district director and our District 91 parliamentarian. Lynn Cantor-Gaynor, Division B director currently, and Gula Cortis, an immediate past division director. And they will be chipping in during the webinar to give you their experiences of district leadership. First of all, I just want to set the context about what we are talking about today and what we're not talking about. So district leadership roles, not club leadership roles. So what do I mean by district leadership roles? Well, it's area directors, division directors, and what's known as the trio. I'll explain that now, so I don't have to explain it multiple times during the afternoon. The trio are the club growth director, the programme quality director, and the district director. Of course, there are the district leadership roles, district admin manager, district finance manager, and district PR manager, but they are appointed by the incoming district director, so we're not dealing with those roles this afternoon. What I want to look at is the why. Why should you apply for these roles? What are the benefits? What experiences will you gain? The what, the basic requirements of the role, so you know if you're qualified or not, and the how to apply for them. There are some basic requirements for every single district leadership role, and I've noted these names, I can't remember them. So at the time of taking office, and that's important because taking office is the 1st of July next year, you must be a member in good standing of a club in good standing. Well, that's fairly obvious. If you're not a Toastmaster member, you shouldn't be on district leadership, should you? And you should have been a member for past 12 months or have been a member for 12 consecutive months in the past 3 years in this district. Now that applies to everything, and I think most people who are applying for district leadership roles will be current members for more than 12 months anyway. So let's look at each individual role. I want to start with area directors, because they are so important to how the district runs. And let's start with the why. So why be an area director? And I'm going to invite any of my panelists who like to chip in there, because they've got more recent experience than I have of being area directors, because I was an area governor, it was that long ago. So would anybody like to say why area directors are so important to our district?
I'll kick off and say something. Someone has to.
Thank you.
It's a great opportunity to develop your skills in all sorts of different ways. A lot of people, they join, they become a member, they become an officer, they become a president. Often they then go on to be an area director. And it's a great opportunity to develop leadership skills. One thing I want to talk about when it comes to leadership skills, a lot of people say, well, I do leadership at work. I don't need to do it here in Toastmasters. Well, there is a difference between leading a team of paid people and leading a team of volunteers. Leading a team of volunteers, it's really about the people management, the team dynamics, and how you build that, the people emphasis, you build that into how you lead your team. I think that's really, really important, but that's a great skill that you can actually take back into the workplace or other parts of your life. And so I think, to me, that leader, there are leadership elements that apply. You know, you're organizing, planning, you're strategizing, whatever, but actually that element of leading a volunteer team is hugely important, and I will actually really test to that, because I got my job now because of my volunteer leadership experience, and when I started doing that, I never dreamed in the world that I would need it. If you know what I mean. I would never dream that I would actually need it. So I think that I'm just going to kick off with the leadership, but think about the leading of the volunteers, which is very, very different dynamic, but it's a fantastic skill to learn and you can take anywhere.
Thanks, Lynn. Yeah, I entirely agree. We have a byline of Toastmasters where leaders are made, which a lot of people don't necessarily join for. They think about public speaking. But I've worked in the private sector, the voluntary sector, the public sector, and the charitable sector. And I think I learned more from my leadership path in Toastmasters than any of those, because those skills are so transferable. And it's a different type of leadership. You really need to manage people on a personal level in Toastmasters. Anybody else like to chip in with their recent experience? Gula, you've been more recently an area director, I know.
Yes, thank you, Andy. I think the one thing we need to think about is, of course, stepping out of your club. Because we all get so comfortable doing everything in our club, speaking or taking a role, and we get too familiar with our people. So I think an area director is a chance to meet other clubs and also meet the district. Because often as a club member, we forget what the whole district is about. And I think the area director gets your first step into the district executive committee, which is I thought that was a very exciting role, because you learn so much from what is required from the district as much as people managing your clubs.
Absolutely, yes, it is. It's an opportunity to bring your club experience to other clubs in your area, but also to learn from other clubs about what they do slightly differently. We all have the same fundamental structure as clubs, but all our meetings are different. All our practices are slightly different. And it's a great way of sharing experiences. Also, as you mentioned there, to my mind, there are two distinct entities within Toastmasters. There's the clubs and there's Toastmasters International. And it's the opportunity to step out and actually learn what Toastmasters in the bigger world is all about. And it is it's the gateway, isn't it, to much more leadership roles and much more experience. And it's key for the district. That's their link back into the clubs to understand what is actually happening.
Yeah. And
the basis for that is keeping our members happy, the members of clubs who need that support. So
following on from what Gula was saying about stepping out of your club and into the wider Toastmasters world, I was talking to an past area director, just yesterday, and they were saying it was only now when they look back they realized how it expanded their network of people that they would never ever meet in their social life or in their work life. And what a great benefit. And when they go to events now, they know so many people and it's so sociable and it's fun and it's enjoyable. And there was an element she wasn't expecting. But of course, you're meeting, if you add 4 to 6 clubs, a minimum of like 20 people in the club, you're meeting hundreds of people. And it's such a fantastic opportunity. He said, it's the networking, it's fantastic. And I will also say, I have used my Toastmasters network also within my day job. So it's absolutely been fantastic. So there's huge benefits.
Thanks, Lynn. Let's move on to the what, because to be an area director, what qualifications do you need over and above the minimum I talked about at the beginning? You don't. It is preferred, it's recommended that you've served on the district council, which means you've been a club president or club VP education. That's not a requirement. That's it's recommended you've got a bit more experience of how the district works, but it's actually open to virtually all members, given the qualifications at the beginning, current members for over 12 months. So don't hesitate. If you're interested, step up. So how do you? Well, normally it's through area council meetings and elections at area council. The date is yet to be agreed by DEC, I think at the end of this month, when the deadline will be for area councils, but it's around about March time. So if you don't know who your current area director is, or when your area council's meeting, find out. You should know because they've visited your club already, and they're going to be visiting again in the new year. So that's area directors. Let's move on to division directors. I'm just going to deal with the why and the what for this one, because the how applies to most of the other roles we're going to talk about. So division directors, anybody like to comment on why that is such an important role and the benefits of it?
I'm happy to kick that one off. I think, as an extension of the area director role, it's another role that's a conduit to the wider organisation. And certainly for me, there's the element of, I had a team of all male area directors, and actually facilitating those conversations and empowering them to go off and do things was one element of it. But actually, it lends itself to the strategic nature of what follows. So being on the trio and actually really understanding the bigger picture and the building of new clubs, which is one part of the district mission. And I certainly felt that I was able to bring some skills from outside of Toastmasters into Toastmasters for that particular role, as well as learning leadership and team building on the job, so to speak.
Thanks, Rupa. It is a role that's much more about managing a team of area directors, whereas the area directors are supporting clubs directly. So it's a slightly different skill set. And again, as you say, a wonderful experience to actually do that, excuse me, that managing of teams and get involved in the wider district issues as well. But who else would like to chip in there?
Yeah, I would tend to agree. It's very much about managing teams. I remember enjoying very much being Division H director as it was then, and it stretched from Kent right up to Maidenhead and the borders of London and down to the coast. So it was much, much bigger then. But the opportunity to meet so many people, to support the area directors in supporting their clubs, to be responsible for some of the first Toastmasters Leadership Institutes. We were the first group of people to sort of get involved with that. Yeah, it's very rewarding to get a bigger picture idea of how things work in the organisation and meet loads of people, as others have already said.
Thank you. I think, Gula, you were going to add something.
Yeah, I mean, it's so true. I mean, that little step up from area, and I think I've explained or tried to explain that before in a video as well, because you're really, as a division director, sandwiched in between the trio and the area, and you've got to really understand what's required at that end and this end. But that is so exciting because you're supporting both angles. So whether, you know, as an area director, you still feel very connected to the members and the clubs and cheer them on. But when you're an area director, it's like you've got it all. And, you know, looking after and feeling responsible for, you know, in my case, H last year was 500 plus members. It's incredible. And it's a great achievement when you feel like we've had a really good year.
Yeah, thank you, Gula. And the other thing we haven't perhaps touched on is also organising events, because both at area and division level, you're responsible for the contests and the club officer training and the TLIs, as Vanessa has mentioned. So there's additional skills of actually organising events, but also delegation. I mean, if you're a good division director or area director, you'll have assistants and other people supporting you. And that's also encouraging our future leaders. I think that's another role that we sometimes overlook, is area and division directors supporting the next generation coming through and encouraging them. And being that inspiration, which is such an important part of Toastmasters' life. So unless we really want to add, we'll move on to the what do you need to be a division director then? Fundamentally, just at least 6 months serving on the district council. So that again means an area director, club president, or club vice president education. So it is a requirement to serve at least 6 months on the district council. Again, that gives you the experience, the insight into how the district works and the wider Toastmasters International organisation works. So let's move on to the trio, as they're known, the big three: programme college director, district director, and club growth director, starting with club growth director. So why would you become a club growth director? I'm going to ask Rupa, because you're probably the most recent club growth director here. So what's the benefit of all the effort required to be a club growth director?
And let's be honest about it. It is a lot of effort. Even though I had a very successful year as a division director and I had a nice run into being club growth director, I don't think anything prepares people for the jump, and I think it's important on a session like that for people to be aware of it, because a lot of people shy away from these roles because of the time commitment. But the reality is, you go from managing a small team to managing potentially multiple teams, and you have to build those teams yourself. And with the trio in general, and I will focus this on Club Growth Director, if we mirror the district as an organisation to the outside world, then the role of Club Growth Director is like being the sales and marketing director in an organisation. And once again, the reason I was quite passionate about it, even though I ended up having that role in pandemic year, was because I felt like I could bring some skills from outside of the organisation in. And from a strategic point of view, if we're all still passionate about being a Toastmaster and what the vision of the organisation is, well, actually, it's the role that really encourages us to expand our membership so other people have the opportunity and build more clubs. So as many people in our district or in our geographical district can experience benefit of Toastmasters.
Thanks, Rupert. Yes, I mean, like any organisation, we need to continue to grow and encourage people to join. How many times have you heard the saying, Toastmasters is one of the world's best kept secrets? Too many times, I would suggest. But building new clubs and encouraging members to join is obviously critical to the well-being of the organisation. Who would else like to comment on Club Growth Director role? Vanessa, when were you Club Growth Director? It must have been about 2014 at a guess.
Yeah, I think that's about right. I feel like I have to go and check my badge just to be sure, but it was about 10 years ago, I would say. And yeah, I would echo the comments that have been made around, the more members we have, the more clubs we've got, the more opportunity people have to experience the benefits that we can all point to. It is definitely a challenging role when you on the trio, because you are generally the newest member on the team usually, and you have a lot of responsibility, but it's such an opportunity to develop skills that you might not have the opportunity to do in your ordinary everyday work. So as a teacher, I'm not responsible for anybody except what's going on in my classroom. And the opportunity to manage teams or to work with people developing teams, I'm not sure I did a great job of it when I was Club Growth Director, but that's the point. You don't have to be the expert coming into the role. You have to be open to developing yourself in that role. So by the time you get to the end of it, you know what to do and you can pass it on to the next person. And I think that's sort of generally true for a lot of roles within Toastmasters. There is an expectation. I think sometimes people will say, oh, I can't possibly do it because I'm not qualified. Well, okay, but neither was I. I came into it and I got the training. I met people who helped me. We never do any of this stuff on our own, and we continue to work to help others with it. But yeah, Club Growth was certainly a challenging year for me. Quite some time ago now.
Yeah, Vanessa was the first district director I worked under. I have a lot of respect, and I owe an awful lot to Vanessa for my career. There's something very crucial there you mentioned, Vanessa, and that is the whole concept of why we're in Toastmasters. We don't come into any role, whether it's the first club role we come into, the first district role, as knowing it all. That is not the point. They are opportunities for us to learn new skills, develop and grow. And there is a huge support system behind each of these roles. The outgoing trio, I mean, the district officer training that's undertaken for division and area directors and the trio. And the trio get to go to international convention, be trained by Toastmasters staff and meet up with their peers across the world and learn from them. So you're never on your own. And it's like going to the very fundamental Toastmasters evaluations. It's about how can we help people improve and give them suggestions to be even better than they are now? It's not about people being perfect going into a role. What's the point of that? What are you going to learn if you're already perfect? I've never been perfect at anything. So But no, it's good. And take up Rupert's point as well about the workload involved. The whole structure of Toastmasters International up to in the international board are all volunteers. And it takes commitment and it takes effort, but it's so rewarding. Lynn, you
Yeah, I was going to add something. So I've actually developed a speech which is called "Crazy or Brilliant," and it's based on the fact that the whole of Toastmasters changes all of its leadership team on the same day or at the same time. But isn't it brilliant? Which is crazy, right? It doesn't happen anywhere else in the world. But isn't it brilliant that it happens? Because we're all in the same boat. We're all learning together. We all know what it's like. We're all supporting each other. And you're suddenly a division director, and you've got to support a team who are looking to you for support because you don't know what you're doing. They don't know what they're doing. But so it's crazy, but it's brilliant, because where in the world can you do a leadership role for a year, and if you want to do it again, you don't have to. If you want to go on, you can continue, but you can be area director, do it for a year, and then not go on to straight away to division director or things. You can do something just for a year. You cannot get that anywhere else in a job unless you get sacked, right? So I just think the whole thing, it's just 12 months, which I think is brilliant.
Excellent. Yeah. Anybody else wish to chip in? We'll talk about the what.
Just want to come back, Andy, if I may, on your point and what we've said earlier about the networking. And even though I was club growth director in the pandemic year, and I remember my then district director being worried for me that I wouldn't have the support network that you referred to through district leader training. But the reality is the friends I made that year are definitely friends for life beyond the district, and I've been travelling so much as a result for Toastmasters stuff, but also to visit those friends.
Thanks, Rupa. Yeah, it is good to be part of such a positive organisation, such a supportive organisation. Perhaps I should just also clarify, as club growth director, you are not solely responsible for starting new clubs. You rely on individual Toastmasters, area directors, division directors to identify where those clubs can come from. I mean, most clubs are started by one enthusiastic individual seeing a need and building on that. And then the club growth director puts in place the mechanism to support them. The other Toastmasters will turn up to the inaugural meeting and support them, and then the mentors and club sponsors to help grow the club. And one of the great satisfactions, I look back, when I was club growth director, I think in 2016, and I look at the clubs that are still going now that started then, not because of me, because of my ability to support the people who started those clubs, but they're still going. And how many people have those clubs helped in those last 8 years? I won't even begin to count. So it's a wonderful, rewarding experience to know you've a legacy behind you of clubs you've started. So let's talk about the what. And this is something that trips people up a little bit when they're going for one of the trio roles, because you need to have been a club president for at least 6 months. I know people in the past go, oh, I fancy being club growth director. I think I'll go for it. Oh, when were you club president? Oh, no, I've done all the other roles, but not that one. That is why it's worth being a club president if you haven't already. It's a hurdle you have to get over. And it's a great experience anyway. So that is a requirement. You have to have served as a club president for at least 6 months and at least 12 months in one of area division club growth program quality director roles as well. So again, you need to step up to the trio. You needed to have been an area director or a combination of those for 12 months. So as I think Vanessa alluded to, it is a step up. That's why the qualifications are greater, because it does require a lot more commitment than some of the other roles, perhaps, as do all the trio roles. Oh, we come on to the how to apply. We talk about all the trio roles together. Let's move on to program quality director. Now, for those of you who don't know, the district has 3 goals. 2 of those are the club growth director's responsibility, new clubs and membership payments. And the 3rd one is program quality director, and that's about clubs being distinguished. That is the key focus of the role. So who would like to talk about why be a program quality director? You've done your 12 months as a club growth director potentially. What makes you carry on? What makes you go on and do yet another demanding role?
Well, you've already demonstrated you're insane, so you may as well keep going. That was my first thought as to why you would do it. I have to say I absolutely loved my year of being program quality director. For me, that was just the most rewarding. It's really weird to say it's the most rewarding. I don't know how you measure that, but anyway, I think you get my point. I really very much enjoyed it. I enjoyed being there to help people, to help members achieve their educational awards. And I say that like I was helping individuals. I wasn't. I was still managing a team. I was helping to organize conferences. In my time, we had 2 conferences to organize, but of course, I wasn't organizing them. I had an input into the program of the conference, but supporting teams to deliver the conference, thinking about club officer training and leadership training and what shape that would take, the opportunity to visit clubs to support them when they were having their contests. It was just a really exciting year, and it was a fantastic opportunity to really build people up. And I think that's probably the most rewarding thing about district leadership is it is a platform to build up others. And that year was when I found I achieved that to the best, I think.
Oh, I'm going to be mean now. I'm actually going to pick on Debbie, although she's not a panelist, because as our current program quality director, how are you finding your year, Debbie?
I'm actually enjoying my year as program quality director. I think it's a great opportunity to actually share your learning experiences. And you do that because this is where that qualification of being a past area director or division director comes to the fore, because you're really able to share their experiences. You're able to listen and understand any challenges or any opportunities that may occur. And it's a really good opportunity to actually help nurture and mentor others. But it's also a good opportunity to talent spot as well. Because particularly as a program quality director, you're in charge of a conference, for example. So you're nurturing the next conference director, the next leaders that are coming through the ranks. And I think it's a great opportunity. So it's another way of paying it forward.
Thanks, Debbie. Sorry to put you on the spot. Because program quality director, we talked about being responsible for the number of distinguished clubs. So what does that actually mean in practice? As Debbie touched on, it's supporting the clubs to support their members to achieve all the club goals. And that covers such a wide range of things. Again, like the conference, you're not directly responsible for delivering it. You're accountable for making sure it happens. And again, with distinguished clubs. So you're training division directors and area directors to support clubs. You're helping to. You're not delivering all the training yourself. You call on a group of people from within the district. And again, it's that enabling function of spotting the people who are good trainers, the people who can inspire the clubs. And it's a great way of again, building an incredible network across the district. And again, just know who the future stars are, as people have touched on. So I don't know if Lynn or Gula would like to comment on experiences they have of program quality directors supporting them in their role. If not, we'll move on, but I'll give you the opportunity.
Well, I'll quickly go into it. I think last year I had Steve. Steve, of course, as a program quality director supporting us. And I think it's very important that he was there for the division directors, and we had always had the DCP in front of us and really encouraging that and understand that it is a tool to assess how our members are doing and to keep training and letting people see that. So, but then I love pathways.
Don't we all?
Not everyone does, unfortunately. We have a big project at the moment trying to get people onto it, but
just as a brief aside then, just ask people what the alternative was. Do we still offer people 2 printed books when they join Toastmasters in this day and age? If we kept the old system, we would be so out of touch and out of date. Anyway, that's another webinar.
People are complaining about all the paper they're printing out just for the contest. So yeah, can you imagine 2 books for everybody? Absolutely.
So let's talk about the what you need to qualify as program quality director. Once again, you must have served at least 6 months as a club president and 12 consecutive months as either an area director, a division director, club growth director, or bizarrely, program quality director. So having served before qualifies you, because you may have moved districts or you may have done it years ago. There's nothing to stop you coming back into the role, although you can't do it for 2 consecutive years in the same district. So the district director. Why become a district director? I mean, I think Vanessa's answer to the last question probably applies equally. But they are a step up. I know when I went through the trio, I was surprised. I was surprised how much bigger a role the club growth director was than anything I'd experienced before. And I thought, well, I'm on the trio now, so I know what to do. When I stepped up to program quality director, it was different again. It was a different set of demands and another step up. When I eventually stepped up to district director, it was another big leap again. So who would like to comment on why would you want to be a district director?
Okay, I'll kick it off, but I'm interested what my partner in crime, Vanessa, will say to supplement. So I'll give you a couple of minutes, Vanessa. I'm going to come out with a generic answer first, which I think is true for all roles in Toastmasters, and then another comment, and then be more specific. And if we go back to why most of us, if not everybody, starts at Toastmasters, it's to get better at confidence and public speaking. And every single role gives us a different kind of speaking opportunity. In addition, and Andy, I'm sure you'll cover this in the process, I'm a big believer in people applying for roles, full stop. Right? So there's an application process for the division director and trio roles. And you don't know you unless you start to take yourself through that process. I saw a lovely post on Facebook earlier today about someone that's competing this year and the value of actually competing. Well, that's true for these roles. And if we're in a fortunate situation where Andy's got loads of people to interview and loads of people to shortlist, then actually there's an election process, there's a campaign process, and there's a bit of competition. But ultimately, you're competing with yourself. So there's the self-development and self-knowledge that comes with taking yourself through this process. But specifically, district director, I really, and I'm going to be a geek here and say I really, really enjoyed chairing the formal business meetings. So working towards a structure and really being able to control a room or not, as the case may be in some cases. But that's where I think certainly if you've gone through the trio, whilst Lynn alluded to the fact that we're only in these roles for 12 months, and we do rent the roles, that's true, but actually some of the things that you may have done as club growth director, you only actually see come to fruition when you're district director.
Thanks, Rupa. It is a high-profile role. This is effectively the chief executive of the district. You're responsible for the budget and finances for the whole team and the whole district. And it is an amazing experience. So in my network, I don't really use LinkedIn. I'm not active on it. My LinkedIn network is amazing. I can't believe how large it is, simply because of all the contacts I made coming through the trio. And also you're the liaison directly with Toastmasters International. You represent the district, you get all the information, and you're accountable for how the district runs. And you get to meet so many people. You deal with Toastmasters International staff and Chief Executive Dan and all other wonderful people you come across. And it's I must admit, I'm very much an introvert and I don't like a lot of attention. But going out to visit clubs, and they're almost in awe of the district director when you walk in, and it is nice to be so respected and to be so welcomed everywhere you go, and to visit all the different. I mean, obviously the area directors visit clubs regularly, but as district director, you get to pick and choose where you go. And the other thing Rupert touched on there is chairing the meeting. When I retired from my day job, I joined a couple of organisations, a local sports club and a local charity. And in both cases, very quickly, I was asked to be chair. The charity was a big one, chair of the board of trustees of the charity. And partly that's because they went, oh, this guy's got experience running meetings. He knows how to manage meetings and how to run things properly. And they're experiences you never expect to pick up in Toastmasters, but they're so valuable and so transferable.
Mm-hmm.
It's just one of the many skills you gain along the way.
Oh, absolutely. Completely agree with all of that, Andy. I like you, found it a little uncomfortable at the time to have people make such a fuss of you and, oh, you're the district director, kind of all hail the chief type. But it didn't take too long for me to realize that none of what we do actually is about us as individuals. It's about us, the organization. And I feel quite strongly that if a person thinks they're going to get into leadership to fix things, then I think they need to maybe look in a different direction, because Toastmasters District 91 has been around for 10 years plus. It's going to be around for a lot longer, and it sort of exists outside of us as individual leaders. And so I learned to approach each role that I took on as being there to add a little bit. And if the little bit that I added remained relevant and useful, then it persists. But it's not me that persists, it's the thing that I may or may not have been involved in doing. It's a bit like the clubs, Andy, when I look at the dashboard, because I'm still looking at the dashboard, but I'm obsessing much less about numbers these days. I'm really proud that there are clubs that are still in existence that are celebrating their 10th anniversary. And I was there at their demonstration meeting or to celebrate their chartering. I mean, it is a fantastic feeling, but I think as leaders, we need to recognize that we are a small part of a very big organization, and we're just there to do a little bit. And to me, that's the most, it is rewarding, because I can have a small conversation with someone who says, oh, wow, I really appreciate you saying that. Even my own conversations with international directors, there was one leader who said to me, I think when I was program quality and I was standing for district director, and I was a bit nervous about it because it's district director, and he said, oh, we need leaders like you. I'm thinking, this is this great big huge Saudi guy who he was enormous, at least he seemed that way to me at the time, telling me that he thought that I had something to offer. And that's the power of leadership, and that's the joy of the positions for me, is that you have that opportunity, as I think I've probably said before, of helping people and showing them a mirror, saying, you're really cool, you should do this, give it a go.
Yeah, dead right. And of course, everything we do ultimately is for and driven by members. So as district director, Rupert mentioned you're managing the district council meeting, but who actually votes at the district council meeting? They're the club representatives. The majority of people are club presidents and VP heads. And how are they voting? If they're doing the job properly, they've consulted their club members to ask. So ultimately, everything comes back to doing this for the benefit of members. And we should never forget that. It's not an ego trip. It's not a power trip, because you don't actually have a lot of power. You're doing what is right for your members to help your members succeed and for clubs to succeed. And yeah, it is. I don't know. I don't think I've ever met a single person who's joined Toastmasters thinking, I'd like to be district director one day. But that's what happens eventually. If you get involved, you get more involved, and eventually you'll work your way up. So, yes, it is a huge bonus to be able to represent your district and your members in those roles. So let's talk briefly about what is required to stand as district director. Well, once again, you have to have served as club president for at least, for 12 consecutive months. district director, and have served for 6 months, 12 months as either a division director, club growth director, or program quality director. So you can't jump from area director to district director. You've got to have experience of at least division director role or been on the trio, because it is such a big role. So let's talk about how you apply to be a division director, club growth director, program quality director, or district director, because those roles are all managed through something called the District Leadership Committee. And as I said in the introduction, this year I have the pleasure of being the chair of the District Leadership Committee, which means I get to organise everything but don't get to vote on anything. It's a wonderful role. Now, the District Leadership Committee is formed from representatives from every division in the district. So there will be 8 members of the committee, 1 from each division. And they are responsible. Part of their responsibility is not only to assess candidates, but we're actually expected to go out and seek candidates. That is part of what we're allowed to do. So that tap on the shoulder, I see something in you type quote, we will be actively looking for people we think should step up to division director and the trio roles. The application process, actually all applications have to come to me as District Leadership Committee Chair. There's a lot of detail on our district website. There's a whole page about district leadership roles for next year. It goes into all the detail, but I want to talk briefly about some of the technicalities. The first thing is the deadline. There's plenty of time. You've got until the 2nd of February to actually apply for one of those roles. Please don't leave it until the 2nd of February. I did this role about 4 years ago, and you won't believe how many applications came in on the final day. Why? Why are you doing that? There's plenty of time. You know, if you've got a nice break over Christmas, take a couple of days when you're sober to do your application. Don't leave it till February, but you have got time to prepare. There are various forms. I won't go through them all, but they're all on the website. You have to sign a bit of a disclaimer as well if you want to be a district leader. There's a biography form, there's a nomination form. And we want quite a lot of background detail about you before you actually get to the next stage, which is interviews. The District Leadership Committee will interview all nominated candidates who qualify. If you don't qualify for one of the other criteria already stated, you won't get through that last stage. So make sure you know what the qualifications are. We are assessing people against competencies, which are all published. They're all available. There'll be links on the website. There are competencies for each of those roles. We are looking for people who are meeting those minimum competencies. Again, we said earlier, they don't have to be perfect. You have to meet every single one. You have to reach a threshold where we think you are worth putting in front of members at the elections to vote for. We don't want to be putting people forward for people to vote on that aren't competent to do the role. It's not a beauty contest. You're not competing against other people that we nominate. We can nominate any number of division directors, program college director candidates, etc. For our work to be valid, though, we have to nominate at least 1 person for district director, at least 1 person for program quality, and at least 2 for club growth director, and at least 1 for each of the division director roles. We would like there to be more than that applying. We want to give members the choice because they're making the decision. If we put 1 candidate up for each division, where's the member choice in that? So do apply. There will be interviews round about the end of February, beginning of March. And what we've agreed this year with Steve, district director, is division directors will all be interviewed online. There will be online interviews for division directors. The trio roles will be in person. Clearly we need to get a bit more depth behind what people are about and what they know. So they will be in person, venue to be decided. And depending on the applicants, we may choose more than 1 venue to get closer to where the applicants are to save too much travel. But those interviews are meant to be positive. They're meant to be an opportunity for people to actually show us what they're capable of and show us what their potential is. And it's as much about potential as anything. People we think are worthy of putting forward for the elections. And of course, the elections are in May at the district council meeting. If anybody is interested, then please do get in touch with me, and I'm happy to talk to anybody at any time. You are also allowed to nominate people, caveat, with their permission. Okay. But if you think somebody is worth looking at, just have a word with them and say, I'd like to nominate you for whichever role. Is it okay? And you can put a nomination form in on their behalf. But normally people self-nominate, to be fair. And as Rupert said earlier, not everybody can succeed. Not everybody will get elected. But the very process of filling in the form, reflecting on why you think you should do that role, reflecting on how can you benefit from this role, and then going through that interview process and being gently challenged on that is a wonderful process. And again, as Rupert said, you learn so much about yourself, and you won't be able to answer all our questions 100%. That's not the point. It's to work out how much potential you've got and where you perhaps have areas you'll need to work on if you do get into the role. As I said, my contact details will be on the website, and hopefully Debbie can also share them when this webinar is shared. But it sounds like a glib comment, and people who know me know it isn't. Do talk to me. I want to talk to people if you've got any concerns, any questions, any doubts, or if you want to know more about the very detail of the process. So I don't know if we have any questions at all in the chat or any questions from online, but I'll open it up to the rest of the panel. Anything else you'd like to add to what we've discussed this evening to encourage people, to persuade them to step into leadership, which is after all the seminar?
I'll just add, I'm absolutely loving my role of division director. I'm absolutely loving it, and I'm loving seeing my area directors develop and grow, and the satisfaction I've got from they've just gone through they've done club officer training, they've just done the contest, and they're so pleased with themselves how well it went, and it's just to see them just grow in confidence. It's so rewarding, and that's just one element of it, but just the satisfaction you get from working with the team, it's just great.
I would add that I would recommend leadership to anybody. It's an opportunity to stretch yourself. There's incredibly varied opportunities for working with all sorts of different people. Huge challenges in working together as collaborative teams sometimes, but you learn so much about yourself. And I have found in the 8 years since I was district director that the learning just keeps coming. The applications for the things I've learned just keep coming, and so you never know what you're going to get out of it, really. And I would just encourage anyone who's even thinking about it, reach out to your area director or your district, or any of us on the panel. I'd be very happy to have a chat with you about it. But yeah, you never know what you're going to learn, and I encourage anyone to have a go.
And I'm sure we'd all agree, I'll be more than happy to speak to anyone who's thinking about being a division director. More than happy to share my experiences, absolutely. I'm sure Gula would be the same.
Same for me, definitely. And I can't wait for my next journey. That's it, isn't it? It's saying yes, and let heaven open up and learn from it and give what you can give to our members.
Just another slight plea I would make. I'm in the process currently of sourcing my members for the District Leadership Committee. As I've said, I need one from each division. If you're not thinking of applying for role next year, but you're interested in being part of the process, then do get in touch if you'd like to serve on the Leadership Committee. That's a whole different experience. Actually interviewing candidates for the role is a great experience. Again, you learn a lot from that. But I just want to sort of touch on something that Vanessa alluded to. I was district director in 2018-19, so 5-6 years ago. There are still occasions when somebody will pop up and remind me of something they experienced that I didn't realise had made an impression. There was an event 2 weeks ago. There's a 20-hour marathon speechathon celebrating 100 years of Toastmasters. Worldwide, it started in New Zealand, and went right across the world and finished in Hawaii, 2 hours in each sort of area of the world. And District 91, I was lucky enough to be invited to give one of the speeches. And that was because somebody remembered something I'd said that inspired them. And they thought, I'll ask Andy to do a speech because I got something from him. It was completely out of the blue. I didn't know it was coming. I didn't expect it. And one of the people on that occasion was a guy called Brian Skelton, who some of you all know. I didn't know he was on the webinar, but I invited him to give a speech at district conference the year I was district director, because he's got an amazing personal story to tell about how Toastmasters helped him. He came on the call and so I'm going to be emotional. I shouldn't do. He actually came on to thank me personally for the opportunity I'd given him. And it's those little moments, the people you impact that you don't know through the leadership journey, that I mean, it's priceless. I mean, it's just such a wonderful feeling to know you've helped people along the way, even if you didn't know it. And I think that is symptomatic of Toastmasters from the club upwards, isn't it? You just give people support and help, and you don't know the impact that's had over their lives. It's fantastic. So the more you get involved in these leadership roles, the more opportunities you have to inspire and help people. So my last real point is, I said about the why, the what, and the how. My last question really is who? Who is going to step forward? Is it going to be you? If not, why not? So that is the question I'll leave you with. And unless there's any questions or comments in the chat, I'll hand back to Debbie to do a quick summary and closing, I guess.
Yes, before we close, there is one question from Justin Barry.
Thank you, Debbie, for introducing me there. Thank you very much indeed, Andy, and the others for your educational piece. Very, very enjoyable. I was an area director about 20 odd years ago, so I really enjoyed that experience. I was just, and actually I had the privilege, because I won a raffle contest, to speak to Pat Johnson, who was the international president of 2010-11, I think it was, and that's when they introduced Pathways, and we were having a chat about that. But my question is that I've just been curious about some of the comments that have been made, and just want to ask a question on that, which is around the club growth director. Okay, because I'm from London originally, but I'm actually living in Ireland, so I'm in District 71. But I'm just curious because it's been mentioned about the club growth director being a challenge and a big step up. I'm just curious, what is it specifically that's challenging? Is it the actual the club growth goals that you need to achieve, or is it, is there some other dynamics that's going on? I'm just curious as to what that is. What's been your experience?
Well, for me, it's a little while ago, it's actually identifying those opportunities, because the club growth director, you're sitting fairly high up, you don't see the detail. It's having that network of knowing where are the people who are going to start those clubs. We can do a certain amount of geographic analysis and look where the gaps are, or look at potential corporations that have got perhaps clubs in America, and therefore we ought to look at those same companies are starting here. But really, you're dependent on people being inspired to want to start a club. And how do you know who those people are? You need to be constantly in touch with the network, keeping in touch with area directors and individual clubs to be on top of where are those opportunities. And it requires quite a bit of work. When you do get the ones that come through Toastmasters International out of the blue, suddenly somebody goes, I'm going to start a club, and you suddenly get this application on your desk. Wow, where did that come from? But it's quite a lot of being aware of what's going on in your district at grassroots level, whilst not being directly linked to grassroots level, I think. I don't know whether Rupa wants to add to that. It's a more recent experience than mine, but particularly during the pandemic, as you said.
I think so. Spot on, Andy. It's that side of the role, right? The understanding it's a strategic role, needing the opportunities, and where are they coming from, building the team. But I think the reference I made was around, whilst I felt I had a lot of people giving me the lowdown of the role, and I felt like I observed a lot. When you're in it, it's the behind the scenes stuff that is part of the trio that you just don't know unless you really sit down with somebody and shadow them, but you don't know until you're in it. And an example that I can give here is certainly in District 91, it's a requirement really for all trios, is interviewing board candidates for the following year. And so whilst I thought I was going to have a relatively easy summer, no, right, that didn't happen. And so it's the little things that make up the big things that you may not know about until you're actually in the role. And the same is true for actually, I think, the jump from programme quality to district director. There's other things that you don't necessarily know about.
Yeah, I think that's fair, Ruby. So not only are you learning an entirely new role as club growth director, which you've never done before, and having to keep on top of that, but it's your introduction to the trio and the wider world of Toastmasters. And as you say, there's lots of other things involved in being on the trio. As with any good team, you're not responsible only for your bit of the district. You're responsible for being part of the team that has managing the whole district, and contributing in a much wider way than perhaps you had before. It's a balance. It's a challenge and a huge reward. And as I say, no pain, no gain almost.
Thank you for that. Yes, I imagine networking is a key part of that. And one thing that's always puzzled me, to be honest, being in Toastmasters for about 25 years, is that the leadership roles that we've been talking about, for some reason that they're not. I personally don't think they're promoted enough and celebrated enough, because if I may say so, we have a webinar here which is actually mostly people who have been doing these roles, but no new people coming through. And I think it's a shame, because it's a challenge in Toastmasters overall. But I think it's great that the work that you do and should be celebrated more and should be published more, I think. So I just want to say thank you so much indeed for everyone who's stepped up and doing those roles. It must be an amazing experience. Thank you.